Monosaccharide, triglyceride, and fatty acid only contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Nucleic acid contains carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Phospholipid contains carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus. Amino acid and protein contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. The ability of water to form many intermolecular hydrogen bonds refers to the cohesive property of water. This can create a high surface tension to allow organisms to float on water surfaces. Leaves can float on water surfaces to absorb more sunlight, and insects can walk on surfaces to capture prey or to lay eggs for reproduction. The hydrolysis of a triglyceride means to break down the fat molecule into 3 fatty acids and glycerol. Water is produced in condensation. All amino acids have a basic structure. They have a hydrogen, a carboxyl group, and an amino group attaching to a carbon atom. The remaining structure is the R group. R group is the structure that distinguishes amino acids from others.
Enzymes are biological catalysts to speed up reaction. Enzymes have specific active sites, which bind to specific substrates. Some enzymes work inside cells, and some enzymes are secreted from cells and work outside cells.
Here are the differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration in humans. Aerobic uses oxygen, while anaerobic does not need oxygen. Aerobic occurs in mitochondria, while anaerobic occurs in the cytoplasm. Aerobic produces more ADP than anaerobic respiration. Aerobic produces carbon dioxide and water, while anaerobic produces lactic acids.
In polymerase chain reaction, high temperatures are used. 95 degrees Celsius is used to unwind the double helix of DNA templates. 60 degrees Celsius allows primers to bind to DNA templates. 70 degrees Celsius is the temperature for the Taq polymerase to replicate DNA. Taq polymerase is a suitable enzyme because they would not be denatured at such high temperatures. Only the first 3 choices are examples of mutations. Mutation refers to the change in DNA base sequences, and the change occurs here. The base sequence after the change remains the same. That means there is no shifting of reading frame, which is a feature of insertion and deletion mutation. So this is a type of base substitution mutation. The 3 bases have been replaced. The images show that X has changed its shape to engulf. This is endocytosis. Cell X only shows this response when the prey is present. So cell X can obtain nutrients.
Phloem sieve tube cells are living cells. However, the cell does not have cellular contents, for example, no chloroplasts and no nucleus. But it still has cytoplasm. Lignified walls are specific structures in xylem.
The cell in the micrograph is a eukaryotic cell because it contains membrane-bound organelles. The cell is a plant cell because it contains chloroplasts. However, the cell does not have a large central vacuole. And this is the nucleus and cell wall of the cell.
Glycoprotein is a transmembrane protein that embeds in the phospholipid bilayer. This part of the glycoprotein contains the carbohydrate chain, which is essential to the function of the protein such as cell marker, cell adhesion, and cell recognition.
During resting potential phase, the sodium-potassium pump will actively transport 3 sodium ions out and transport 2 potassium ions in. This creates a relative positive charge outside the axon and relative negative charge inside.
Histones are proteins that are found in eukaryotic cells. Histones allows DNA to condense to form chromosomes. karyogram shows a chromosome abnormality in a human female. There are 3 copies of chromosome 21 in the karyogram. The reason for having an extra copy of a chromosome is due to non-disjunction. Chromosomes stick together and cannot be separated in meiosis when gametes are formed.
Genome is the whole set of genetic information of an organism or a species. The gas exchange surface in the lungs is alveolus. The surface is moist, which is maintained by type II pneumocytes. Air goes in and out to maintain a high concentration of oxygen and low concentration of carbon dioxide in the alveolus. When we breathe out, the air contains water vapor as well, so water is lost from the moist surface.
The water vapor from the evaporation of water from mesophyll cells will diffuse out of the leaf through stomata. This process is transpiration. Transpiration will lower the water potential in mesophyll cells in leaves. So water will be transported up to the leaf through xylem. This is called transpiration pull.
The message that is conveyed from the central nervous system to an endocrine gland is either hormones or impulses. Hormones are transported by the blood, while impulses are transported by motor neurons. Innate immune system refers to a quick, nonspecific immune response. T cells and B cells are lymphocytes which are involved in specific immune responses. They will help the body to form specific antibodies. Phagocytes is a component of the innate immune system because phagocytes engulf any antigen by phagocytosis.
When there is a rise in body temperature, we have to rely on negative feedback to cool down the body to maintain a constant body temperature. There are several ways to cool down the body, for example, sweating. Vasodilation is another way to cool down the body. This will dilate blood vessels to allow more blood to reach the skin's surface to increase heat loss.
On day 15 of the menstrual cycle, luteinizing hormone reaches the peak concentration. LH stimulates the ovary to release an egg cell and to develop a corpus luteum. Corpus luteum will release progesterone to maintain the uterine lining. Analogous structures can perform similar functions, but different structures. They are evidence for convergent evolution when 2 different species share similar ecological niches, so they need to adapt to perform similar functions to survive in the environment.
The graph shows that the number of hummingbird species in South America has increased continuously. Formation of new species is caused by speciation when there is selective pressure. Selective pressure includes competing limited resources, changing environmental conditions, and other limiting factors for the growth of population.
These temperatures are the preferred temperature ranges for these 3 different trouts. These 3 ranges overlap, showing their niches also overlap. Although they overlap, each trout can also live in some specific areas. For example, lake trout can live in colder water, so they can avoid competition with other trout. However, just based on temperatures cannot tell the condition of the niche for each trout. In autotrophic nutrition, the source of carbon is inorganic carbon dioxide, and photosynthesis, instead of respiration, is the method to acquire energy. In heterotrophic nutrition, the source of energy and carbon come from organic matter. Respiration, not photosynthesis, is the method to acquire energy in heterotroph. Consumer is not a type of nutrition. It refers to a niche in a food chain. Mixotrophic nutrition means organisms use both autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition to obtain energy and carbon.
Locust feeds on maize, so locust is a primary consumer. They feed on plants, so they are also be regarded as herbivore.
Allelopathy is a strategy in the relationship of competition. It means the organisms produce secondary metabolite that are not essential for basic functions, but to influence the growth of other organisms, such as inhibiting cell respiration. Density-independent limiting factors can affect the growth of a population regardless of the population density. Forest fire is one of them because it will happen no matter the population size is large or small. Predation is density-dependent factor for prey population because it would be easier for predator to prey when the prey density is high. Climate change and eutrophication are anthropogenic. When the human population increases, more greenhouse gases and chemical will be released. Therefore, other populations will be affected by these changes. So they are also density-dependent factor.
Natural selection facilitates evolution to occur. When there is a change in environment, individuals bearing the favorable trait will survive. They will have a higher chance to reproduce to pass on the favorable traits to next generations. The frequency of the favorable trait will then increase in the population.